I don't think there is.
Hello, mighty companions. This is Earl Purdy. I want to welcome you to A Course in Miracles here on Facebook Live. And obviously there are quite a few people who need to learn something about letting go of grievances today.
Yeah.
Spirit sent some faces in, and I think we all want to let go of the blocks. Is that right? Do we want to let go of the blocks?
Let's let them go.
Want to let go of the blocks.
Kick 'em out.
Want to kick the blocks out. Right. Welcome to A Course in Miracles. And we're going to be finishing up or going further on the lesson 72 in the workbook, Holding Grievances. Holding Grievances.
All right.
I want you to think of your grievance like you would a little baby that you're holding in your arms right now, rocking. Holding grievances. Holding grievances is an attack. What the Course in Miracles says, holding a grievance is an attack. And what is holding a grievance an attack on? God's plan. Holding grievances is an attack on the truth plan for your happiness. Holding grievances is an attack on God's plan for your happiness. Doing what? Holding grievances is an attack on God's plan for your salvation, which is your happiness. What is holding a grievance? What did the Course in Miracles tell us that holding grievances? Say that holding grievances is basically the idea, if this were different, I would be happy. So the Course says a grievance is anytime you tell yourself, if someone else spoke differently, if someone else acted differently in some way, then you would be happy. A grievance is the belief that if some situation or circumstance in your life right now were different, then you would feel good. Then you would be happy. Everybody hear that? Mm-hmm. Based on that definition, who would be out of denial enough to admit that in some areas of their life they have a grievance going? Thank you. I'm always happy to see that there are people who realize denial is what? Not a real good teacher. Right? So, what would be the point of coming to a class to learn how to let go of your blocks if you don't have any blocks you think you need to let go of? What would be the point of being here unless there was something you wanted to heal, something you wanted to release, and something you wanted to see differently? So right now, I know you're all spiritual avatars, and you have everything handled, and you're coming here for the benefit of your friends and relatives and co-workers. But I'd like for you to take an opportunity to say, I'm going to use today to take a look at my stuff, even the stuff I might not think I have. This lesson has so many powerful ideas in it. But I'd like to also start out with our theme song, which is, I am not a victim of the world I see. Or, I am not a victim of the world I see. Yeah, I'm not a victim of the world. I see, right? Yeah, right? Okay, here we go. Listen to me, people, I got something to say. There's a great deceiver and he scares it away. Okay, the Course in Miracles Choir. We have any members in the house today? Here we go. I'm not a victim of the world I see. I'm not a victim, say what? Of the world I see. I'm not a victim, no, of the world I see. Say what? not a victim of the mall. I'm not a victim of my fall. I'm not a victim of events, circumstance at all. I'm not a victim of the world I see. Cause what's happening now is what I've done to me, including the good stuff. I'm not a victim of the future, not a victim of the past, not a victim of anything that seems to kiss. I'm not a victim of the world I see. Cause what's happening now is what I've done to me. That's what's happening now. Say what? I'm not a victim of the world I see. I'm not a victim of the world I see. I'm not a victim, no, of the world I see. Are you ready to claim your power? Yeah. You know, which is basically, I'm not a victim. That's the way that we do it. I pride myself in my high-tech setup. My road crew is very consistent. It's always here whenever I need it, and I'm glad about that. So we're gonna be in lesson 72 in the Foundation of an Inner Peace version of A Course in Miracles. Holding grievances is an attack on God's plan, and we're gonna start out with paragraph 8. That's where we've gotten to so far, but there are a couple of things I want to cover with you in order for us to really benefit from this. The first thing is to study the Course in Miracles the way the Course in Miracles suggests studying the Course in Miracles, and not trying to study the Course in Miracles perhaps the way that we've learned in the world to study. That's what I think makes 43 years of working with the Course. I see so many things that people use to make the Course in Miracles more difficult than it needs to be. And number one thing is thinking that they need to understand it, and so they analyze it to death. When it says over and over again, what does it say that it says? I want you to remember. I want you to remember what I'm telling you, and then I want you to apply it to the way you see things. So what's another main thing to remember about the Course in Miracles? It's primarily working with our perception. It's working at the level of thought. It's working at the level of the mind. So first of all, so realize the Course in Miracles works at the level of perception, the way that you're seeing things. It's very important because sometimes I think people focus on the Course too much in terms of thinking that their happiness and their peace is going to be determined by their grievance. And then we just heard your grievance is what? The belief that everything outside of you and everybody outside of you needed to be different in some way, then you'd be happy. How can you tell when you're using the ego's plan, which is something in everybody outside of you needs to be different in order for you to be happy? You're upset about something. How can you tell? You're upset about something. If you're upset about something, you're telling yourself something needs to be different right now for me to be happy when you're upset. And think about it for a minute. Tell me anything you're upset about, and I bet it's something that you're telling yourself, if it changed in some way, then you would feel good. Almost all relationship problems are based on that attitude. If my mother was different, if my father were different, if my boss were different, if my coworkers were different, if the Republicans were different, if the Democrats were different, if the independents were different, if the people overseas were different, if black folk were different, if white folk were different, if all the different pronouns on earth were different. then we would be happy. If I was older, younger, slimmer, fatter, more money, less, if the job was different, the economy was different, I would be happy. But what I didn't know from A Course in Miracles is that it was telling me that's a grievance. I hadn't thought of it as a grievance. And the other thing that we heard last week, well, before I do that, here's the guidelines. The guidelines for the course. You need not believe the ideas that I'm about to share. You need not accept the ideas. You need not even welcome the ideas. Good. Some of the ideas you might actively resist. It's a directive from the course. So you might hear some things that you resist, and some of the ideas you may find hard to believe. Some of it might be what? Hard to believe. Hard to accept. That's what to believe means. Hard to believe. And then what else does it say? Some of the ideas that I share from A Course in Miracles might startle you. Like, I love this line here when it says, we covered it last week. In paragraph 9, it says, to be without a body is to be in our natural state. Did you hear what I just said? So everybody that apparently looks like they've died are now in their natural state.
Mm-hmm.
They're grieving us probably.
Yeah, you poor suckers.
Oh my Lord, have mercy. You poor things. You know what I'm saying? You know. So to be without a body is to be in our natural state, goes right along with the Course saying we are not a body. We are free. So people say, well, if I'm not a body, what am I? You're free. You're spirit. So I'm teaching from the perspective that the Course teaches from, which is from the perspective that you are not bodies. That you are spiritual beings having a human experience. You're spirits having a human experience. What are you? Spirits having a human experience. All right? So how could you guarantee that you take the human experience seriously? Well, to forget that you're a spirit. And just think you are a human having a human experience. The Course in Miracles is not putting down or criticizing, condemning, or judging the physical experience. It's simply letting us know that it's not our natural state. Because we are eternal beings. Eternal beings. We're spiritual beings who never die. But we do lay our bodies down. And some of you might be feeling a little guilt about a few times you laid your body down. But that's a whole new class. We're going to talk about that. But no. That's advanced. That's the advanced class. Okay. So why am I telling you this? Because it will help what you hear make a little bit more sense. When you think of it as I'm a spiritual being, I'm mental, I'm awareness, I'm consciousness, having a physical experience. Holding grievances blocks my miracles. Like people ask, why don't I have the blessings? Why don't I feel the blessings? Why don't I feel the happiness? Why don't I know the joy? Why don't I know the security? Well, he says you're too busy thinking everything and everybody else outside of you needs to be different in some kind of way in order for you to let yourself feel good. And then most people use their mind to come up with how many ways they can figure out to get somebody else to change or work their will or do what they want them to do. The average person is using their mind to think about how they can get everything to change but themselves. That's what the Course says. It's not really that complicated. You giving your mind the job of everybody that needs to change but you. Or I'm just going to magically find this perfect person that's going to show up in my life, that's going to be exactly what I want, that's going to bring me everything I need and want without me having to love myself. Know that happiness comes from within myself. So your happiness comes from you. So that your happiness comes from you. It can't come from anywhere else. I'm just quoting Course in Miracle stuff. So it tells us you're not being asked to judge the ideas at all, to analyze the ideas at all. As a matter of fact, the Course in Miracles says, if you analyze the Course in Miracles, it will destroy the meaning of it. So when you're busy trying to break it down and analyze it, remember that it's not going to help you understand it more. It's probably going to destroy the meaning. I've talked to many people who come to Course in Miracles study groups and classes where people were all reading out of the book, giving their interpretation of what they thought it meant, and then everybody would analyze it And the new person will walk out the room and say, man, I walked out of that room more confused than I was about the Course in Miracles when I came in. Because everybody's talking about their interpretation of what it means and analyzing every sentence that it says. I don't do that. I see myself as a divine repetition teacher and your remembering coach. So my job is to remember what it's saying and apply it, and to help other people who want to remember what it says and apply it. So it's important for us to hear it because most people haven't heard it. So we're going to start off with paragraph 8. And if you got the book, especially at home, if you got the book and you can look at it, then let's follow along. So what are we going to do? He said, well, the first thing you need to do is stop your senseless attacks on salvation, which is happiness. I'm going to give you the definitions of these words. So what is it I need to do? First of all, stop attacking the plan. Stop attacking the plan. Instead, we should welcome the plan. I welcome the plan that's absolutely going to bring me permanent happiness and joy in my life. And so the Course says, well, you're not being asked to judge the ideas, but what is it you need to remember? He says, well, you need to remember the use of the ideas will give the ideas meaning to you and will show you that the ideas are true. So what's going to show me that the ideas are true? Using the ideas. Not analyzing it, using it. For instance, if I tell myself I'm not feeling good right now, and I immediately remember to tell myself, oh, that means I'm attacking the plan for my happiness right now because I'm making my happiness dependent on whether or not my child calls me at 7 o'clock p.m. when they said they were going to call me. Okay, and I'm feeling upset about that. Well, that means I'm using the plan that's an attack on my happiness because, first of all, I don't have to attack myself and feel crappy because my kid didn't call at 7 p.m. I could choose to look at that in such a way that I don't give my peace away, but still deal with the fact that I haven't heard from my child yet. There is no need for me to attack myself as part of handling things. So every time the Course says you set it up like your happiness depends on that person calling you at a certain time, you attacking the plan because the plan is for you to realize that your happiness comes from you, number one. And number two, you're the one that's giving them coming home at 7 o'clock all the meaning that it has for you. So it's you that's making yourself upset about them not being home by 7 o'clock. Do you see that? I'll say it again. If it's you that's giving the meaning to everything that's going on in your experience right now, and then you're reacting to the meaning that you are giving it, then you're the one that's causing all the feelings that you're having about everything in your life right now. And none of your feelings about anything that's happening in your life right now are actually being caused by anything on the outer or anybody on the outer, because you're the one that's interpreting how you feel about that person pulling out in front of you in traffic. You don't automatically have to feel upset because somebody pulled out in front of you. You gave it all the meaning that it had for you. You made yourself mad. So your happiness and your unhappiness always comes from you. There's a lesson in the workbook that says, my salvation comes from me. My peace comes from me. My joy comes from me. My fun comes from me. The love I experience comes from me. I would rather my happiness be dependent on me more than it's dependent on you. How about you? Yeah, but don't we act just the opposite many times? Yeah. The next time you're upset today, you'll know you do. Okay, when your mind says, well, no, I don't do that. Well, the next time you're upset, remember you're telling yourself something that you don't have control over has to be different in order for you to feel good right now. If my childhood had been different, then I'd be much more successful today. See, something that I have no control over, the past, were different, then I would be happy. Remember that. Remember that whenever you're using the plan that attacks your happiness, is every time you're using a plan that you tell yourself, if this were different, I would be saved. If this were different, I would be happy. So how do I make it practical? I make it practical by what? Remembering the next time I'm upset, I'm using the wrong plan. And the next time I'm thinking of running somebody down, I might not be using God's plan. You might just want to keep that in mind. I'm going to pass this around for the new contact list I have. And please print if you choose to be on there, because 2024 is coming up. And I have some special treats.
Treats.
Well, I call it, treats of torture. Depending on how you want to look at what I'm talking about.
I'll take some of those.
Okay, take some of that. Okay. So then it says the use of the ideas will give them meaning and show you that they're true. So I want to use it because I'm all about the practical application of the Course in Miracles. So I would like to invite you to think of a person or a situation or a circumstance that you're dealing with right now that you know you're not giving yourself peace about, because now you've identified the area of your life that you're applying the plan that doesn't work. That's an attack on the truth plan. That's the plan that doesn't work. Why? Because I don't have any control over anybody else. So if I make my happiness dependent on you, I'm making my happiness dependent on something I have no control over whatsoever. I don't have any control over you. So now we see why many people are unhappy, don't we? Because they're all acting out that plan of, if I can change everybody or somebody or some circle. If I lived in another city, then I would be happy. Okay, so I'm going to move to another city. I always tell people, when you go to a new place, I think you got approximately 6 months to try to do something different before you watch your pattern start to take over and you start to experience the exact same thing there that you did somewhere else. At least at the beginning, you can pretend that you actually are different and in a new situation. Okay? And so I'm not saying sometimes making external changes don't help. The Course in Miracles actually, do you know what it teaches? It teaches that when you can't solve it by just changing your mind, sometimes it's necessary to change the external situation in order to get you to do something different. But don't ultimately believe that that was necessary for you to feel happy. You could have changed your mind and saved a whole lot of money. Right? Especially if I look back like, at my ex-marriage or whatever. You know what I'm saying? It's like, if I had to change my mind, it would have been a lot easier than all the stuff that I went through as a result of the marriage not working out. Right? So forgiveness actually is always the easiest, cheapest thing to do. But if I insist on being right more than I'm insisting on being happy, then I'm not going to do the simple change of mind necessary to have my peace, because I want to be right. So the Course in Miracles is telling us that, I love this. He says, to be without a body is to be in your natural state, and to recognize the light of truth in us is to recognize ourselves as we are. So how do you end the attack? He says, well, I'll tell you how to end the attack on the plan for your happiness. Is to see yourself as separate from the body. What? I see myself as joined with the body. So that's the problem. The problem is that you think you are just a limited physical being that lives a certain number of years, that's vulnerable, and then it dies one day. With every birthday that I go through, I know I'm getting closer to finding out how much truth is the stuff that I'm saying.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, 7 years from now, I'll be 80.
Yeah. Wow.
That's a trip.
Yes.
That's a trip. Think it's a trip for you.
Yes.
Because there's nothing about me and my energy and the way I see things correspond with how I saw the idea of being 80 years old. So I realized that I'm in the fourth quarter of my physical existence. And so therefore, I don't really have time for a lot of the stuff that I used to put up with at all. Which,
Exactly.
and 90% of that was trying to get everybody else to be what I wanted them to be in order for me to be happy. That's how I wasted so much time, especially in special relationships. Yeah. It's just the dance constantly of how you can be different so I can be happy. I don't have time for that anymore. First of all, my life is too blessed, and I have too much love and joy and wonderful people in my life. And you know how it is when you're having a good time. What happens? Time passes fast when you're having a good time. And I've had a very blessed, loving experience. So for me, my life is going by almost like at a blur. Mm-hmm. This last year seems like it was like that to me, personally. And that's because if you're having a horrible time, as you well know, it looks like it's a slow. You're at a party you hate, or you with somebody you don't enjoy, so you count every second that passed by. But if you're having a good time, it passes fast. So as you become more loving and you care about yourself more and you become kinder, then you're going to have to start focusing on your eternal nature, your spiritual identity, because you're going to have to start associating joy with your eternal life. Yeah. So that you'll see that what you are extends beyond this world, but you want it to extend in a joyful way. Yeah. Nobody wants to live forever or a MasterCard. You know, so you wanna start focusing in on your eternal self. So the Course in Miracles says, so how do you end the attack? Well, you accept what you're being told that will allow you to have happiness. So if I'm going to stop the attack, who would that be? Me not making my happiness dependent on my kid getting home at 7 o'clock in the evening. You know, that I'm not going to make my happiness dependent on that. The Course in Miracles teaches that every time you have an upset or angry thought about something or someone, he says, say to yourself, that thought is an attack upon myself. I just had an attack upon what? I am thinking the worst could happen right now, and I'm looking for the worst to happen right now, and I'm upset about this or that. All of those thoughts are attacks upon myself. All that negative stuff is an attack upon myself. So the Course says we get upset when our fantasy isn't acted out. And then he says, well, when your fantasy isn't acted out, then you turn around and attack your body with your anger and your upset. Because it's your body that's feeling all of that. Then he says it gets sick and then it dies. End of story. Have a nice day. Right? It sounds like, it might sound weird for you to hear me say this, but it's really not anything that you're wondering about that there isn't already an answer to it. It's just, are you willing to be open to looking at things other than the way that you're looking at it? But there's no such thing as you having a problem that hasn't already been solved. It's actually, he says there's a lesson that you say that you recognize my problems have been solved. So today, we already heard it today. Oh, number one, you want to feel better today? Well, then stop believing that everything and everybody needs to be different in order for you to be happy today, because you're the one that's giving it all the meaning that it has. So you're the one that's determining how you feel. Change the meaning, change the feeling. Change the meaning, change the feeling. Change the meaning, change the feeling. Change what you're telling yourself, change the feeling. Change what you're telling yourself and change the feeling. Change what you're telling yourself and what? Change the feeling. That's easier, don't you think? Then the Course in Miracles goes on, and again, I love the work out of the book because I would love to motivate those who are interested in the Course to study the book, and I'm really here primarily for those who would like to get deeper in the material, even though I'm happy for anybody else that shows up, so don't get me wrong. But 40 years of working with this and 30-something of doing it full time, I believe I could be helpful to someone who really wants to master this. And it's the greatest joy that I ever have is this material, because every time that I share it with you, I hear it, and then I believe it more, and I accept it more, and then I get the miracle that it's promising, which makes me want to do it more, which produces another miracle, which makes me want to do it more. So exponentially, you get more devoted the longer you do it. Right? So he says, wherever God's plan is accepted, it's accomplished. You know, as soon as you accept it, if you accept that your happiness comes from you, then that has been accomplished. The minute I accept that my happiness comes from me, then that has been accomplished. Now I have accepted that my joy comes from me. So if I think my joy comes from me and not from you, would that make it easier for me not to get into grievances with people? Yes, because where are my grievances? They need to be different in order for me to be happy. So if I make myself happy, then there's nothing for me to get so upset about what you do or what you don't do, because what you do or what you don't do doesn't have anything to do with how I'm ultimately feeling. And it's funny how the minute that you realize your happiness comes from you and your outer world is a reflection of what's going on internally, then it will look like your world is giving you more happiness. So you have to remember that happiness isn't coming because for any other reason other than you decided to internally love yourself more and to give yourself more joy. And then it looks like the world looks like it's giving you more joy and it's giving you more happiness. But don't you know your world is a three-dimensional mirror reflecting back to you your own thoughts, feelings, and emotions and beliefs. Everything that you're experiencing is coming from your thoughts, your feelings, your emotions, your beliefs. Everything. Everything. Yes, but no. Everything. Everything that you're feeling is coming from you. Like right now, as many people as there are in this room, that's how many different reactions to me that's happening right now. And each one of you are interpreting what I'm saying, and you're responding to your interpretation of what I'm saying. You're not hearing me directly. You're hearing your interpretation of what I just said. Everybody with me on that? Okay, so like I've said often, you're the one giving yourself the class. So if you don't see it as a powerful class that has nothing to do with me. So I'm doing a wonderful class. You may be giving yourself a crappy class, but it don't have anything to do with me, right? So do you want to be right or do you want to be happy? Right? And so then he says, what is our goal? Put it in a question format. Our goal is, in these practice periods, is to become aware that that plan of God or love has already been accomplished in us. So how do we achieve the goal of recognizing that the plan has already been accepted? Well, he says, well, the way you do that is to replace your attack with acceptance. In other words, as long as I keep attacking the truth, then I can't understand and accept what the truth is as long as I'm attacking it. If every time you give me an answer to get out of a situation and all I do is oppose it and attack it, then I'm not going to be able to receive the benefit of what you're trying to help me with. So how do I move toward this getting out of my grievances, letting myself have more joy? Then I need to realize that as soon as I find myself being unhappy about anything or anybody, I need to remember that I'm telling myself if this were different, I'd be saved. I've forgotten that I'm an unlimited spiritual being that creates through my own thoughts. So all I really have to do is change my thoughts in order to change my experience. And all I really need to do is change my thoughts in order to have more joy and to have more happiness. So my happiness is not dependent on what anybody does whatsoever. So I need to remember that by being willing to accept that my happiness comes from me. And I'm never accepting that my happiness comes from me if I'm blaming you and telling myself, you need to be different in order for me to be happy. Practical application. This is something you could take to work tomorrow. Doesn't mean that you don't still get angry from time to time because you're conditioned to do that to a large degree. But every time you remind yourself that your happiness or unhappiness is coming from you attacking the plan, which is you thinking your happiness depends on somebody else, then you're coming closer and closer to that period where you don't get upset at all. It's a process. It's a process. Who would be easier to be with in a relationship than someone who was taking responsibility for their feelings and their happiness? You couldn't be in a relationship that would be with someone more pleasant than someone who's not holding you responsible for how they're feeling. Now, why would I be attracted to somebody who is holding me responsible for how they are feeling? Because I still want to play the game of holding someone else responsible for how I'm feeling. So I still want to be able to say, I would be happy if you change. So I'm going to get with somebody else who wants to do that dance. And that's called the merry-go-round of hell. Got it? That's why I suggest to people all the time, 4 times at least watching the class or listening to the class. And what I do after the class, a lot of times I take at least 15 minutes to give people an opportunity to ask questions or discuss or clarify anything. So that gives people the chance who want to do that. Okay, but what my focus on in the class mostly is hearing it and then letting us hear the way that it's saying we can change things. Then it says, we are therefore attacking what we don't recognize. If I'm getting a new way of looking at things that will allow me to have peace, and someone's trying to give me that new way and all I'm doing is attacking it, then actually I'm attacking something I don't even recognize and don't even know the truth about. You'd be surprised how many people I've talked to that have had opinions about the Course in Miracles and what they think the Course in Miracles is about, and they have not read 2 pages of the Course in Miracles, and they're ready to tell me what they think the Course. Same thing as an astrologer and a numerologist. I'm always amazed at how many people have never studied 1 ounce of astrology that would give me all their opinions about the validity of it or the non-validity of it or whatever. So people are attacking things that they don't even recognize. And so the Course says, now we're going to try to, how do you stop attacking what you don't recognize? Well, he says it. Well, you lay judgment aside. And then you go, well, how do I lay judgment aside? He says, well, the way you lay judgment aside is to ask what God's or the higher power's plan for us is. What? That's radical. Yeah, I don't understand the plan, so maybe I just need to ask what the plan is of the higher power. That's a radical concept, isn't it? To actually ask. And then he says, this is what I want you to do. My creator, basically, I'm doing it in plain language, My Creator, what is salvation? What is peace? What is happiness? I don't know. Tell me that I might understand. Say what? I want you to say, my Creator, what is salvation? What is happiness? What is forgiveness? What is true joy? Ask. That's what the book says. Y'all, I don't know how to break this to you, but you might want to just ask what it is. There's another part of the course that you know that he says, we always make up our minds about what to do, then ask God. Right? We sit up and we come up with our own plan for everything the way that we think we want it to be. He says, then we turn around and ask the higher power what we should do. That we got it exactly backwards. You know, I've decided that this thing or this person or that person is going to make me happy. I've already decided what's going to give me happiness. I didn't ask Spirit. I didn't ask for any guidance. I've decided you're going to be the one for me. I saw you from across the class. It's got to be you now, you know. And so therefore, I've decided it's going to be you, and now God's got to make it happen. I didn't ask whether or not I should get with you. You, for all I know, you could be a serial killer that wiped out about 9 to 10 husbands or boyfriends in the past, right? But because I want you, I want Spirit to show me how to have you. I didn't ask if I should have you, if I should be in a relationship with you. Is that for my own best interest? And that's so the Course says, if you want to stop attacking the plan for your happiness in your life, you need to start asking your higher power what it is that will make you happy. Like you said, what is salvation? I do not know. Tell me. Why do I want you to tell me? That I may, what? Understand. See, that's very specific steps. Then we do what? He said, well, then after you ask, oh my God, what do you do after you ask? He says, well, after you ask, wait in quiet for the answer. What? Wait a minute. You asking me first I should ask, and then I should wait for the answer? He said, because we usually attack the truth. He says, without even waiting to hear what the truth is. And what the answer, you've had that in relationships. Somebody asks you a question, and before you could even answer, they've already, gotten upset, didn't allow you to get it out, to even share what you were thinking or what you were feeling. The Course in Miracles teaches that your relationships with your people in your life that you have intimate, special relationships with are a reflection of your relationship with God. If you want to know what your relationship with your Creator, well, that pretty much better be glad ain't no hell. Because there isn't. Well, the Course says hell is fear. That if you want to go to hell, then you're a person that's afraid about everything all the time. And you're feeling threatened by everything all the time. That's hell. Hell is fear. It's not a place. It's a state of mind. It's the way that you're feeling. So if you're walking around in the world and you're afraid of everything, you're walking around in hell. From a Course, and the same is true about guilt. It's the exact same thing. But what's cool about guilt and cool about fear? What is cool about guilt and cool about fear? Well, what's cool about guilt?
Tell me.
And what's cool? Would you like to know?
I would like to.
All right. What's cool about guilt and cool about fear is that they're in your mind. And since they're in your mind, you can't get rid of them because you can't control something that you're not willing to acknowledge is within you. There's a line in the Course that says, in order for you to get control of your hatred, you need to fully realize all of it's in your mind. Then you can get rid of the hatred that you have. Since it's in your mind. So he says, and since the hatred and the upset's in your mind, where do you think God placed the answer? He says, well, it's in your mind. Right? And so I've been wondering, where's God's answer? I'm looking for it out here. I'm looking for the answer out here. He said, well, that's why you haven't found it. Because it's not out there. It's in your mind. The Creator is smart enough to put the solution where the problem is. If the problem is in your thinking, then the answer is going to be in your thinking too. But here's the trick. You need to learn another way to think. You need to learn another way to look at it. He says that if you're really smart, the first thing you would do is what? Resign as your own teacher. So that's the first stage of enlightenment. What? You need to resign. If you honestly look at the results of you trying to enlighten yourself by yourself, you'd be glad to resign. Right? So the Course in Miracles is telling us, I need to know what happiness is. And then it tells you, it says, we have shouted out grievances so loudly that we haven't what? Listened to God's voice. Now, don't forget, what is shouting out grievances? Me talking about everything in the world that needs to be different in order for me to be happy. Whether it's the economy, whether it's another person, whether it's my body, whether it's my finances. It's any time all I'm doing is complaining about what's going on in the world. That is me shouting out grievances so loudly, what? That I don't listen to the truth. I'm not listening to what this voice is telling me, which is for me to ask 4 questions every time I have a grievance. You're supposed to use that as a trigger to ask yourself 4 questions. Whenever you have a grievance, is an opportunity to remember to ask yourself 4 questions. Ask God 4 questions, which are what? What would you have me do? Where would you have me go? What would you have me say? And to whom? So every time I'm ready to blame you for what's going on, okay, Spirit, what do you want me to do right now? Where do you want me to go? They want me to go to hell. But where do you want me to go? And what do you want me to say? That's what I should do more than how can I get Cheryl to act differently in order for me to be happy. I should be asking, what is it I should do right now? What is I should do? What I should do is remember to tell myself that attacking her would be attacking the plan for my happiness and blocking my miracles. And then asking myself, is my not having the joy and the happiness and the abundance and the health that I want, is what you're doing and the way I'm seeing it more important to me to get upset about that than to let go of it so that I can have the kind of abundance and peace and joy and happiness that I want to have, because your outer world is a reflection of your inner thoughts, feelings, emotions, and beliefs. Everything in your world is being projected from your own consciousness and from your own mind. That's hard to believe, but that's what's really happening. You know, if you want to see a different color, a shirt, when you're looking in the mirror, you wouldn't change the mirror. You would change the shirt. So if you want to see a different life that you're looking at, then you need to have a different set of thoughts and beliefs. There aren't but 2. One is, I'm a victim. The other one is, I'm responsible, and I'm the creator. Those are only 2 types of thoughts, and those are only 2 types of people you're dealing with all day long. Those who are seeing themselves as victim of everything around them, and those who are taking responsibility. But for what? The way they're seeing it. So when I say you're responsible for how you're seeing me right now. You're responsible for how you're reacting to the class right now. You're responsible for how you're dealing with the situations in your personal life that you know you were concerned about before you came here or possibly crossed your mind. And ask yourself, was I using my mind when I was coming over here trying to figure out everything and everybody but me that needed to change? Right?
Probably.
Yeah. Right. If you would really be honest, if you really be honest, I bet you were more thinking about how you could rearrange something in the physical world to make you happy. Even if it's just, oh my God, I'm looking forward to the meal I'm going to have later. And when I had a great meal, then I'll feel happy. No, I'm choosing to feel happy, so I'm going to have happiness while I'm eating that meal. Because that meal isn't coming from determining my happiness. This is a process. This is not something that I expect you to be able to do immediately. Readiness is not mastery. Readiness is not mastery. Readiness is not mastery. Readiness is, because you're ready to be more loving, does not mean you've mastered being more loving. So even though you might be ready to be a kind of person, you could still be the same schmuck that you were before you came in the room, if that's the way you were. You're not going to instantly go, oh, I love everybody because Spirit just says I should be loving everybody. So now I love everybody because I just heard him say I should be loving everybody. No, what you heard was the goal. What you heard was the purpose that you're supposed to have. What you heard was the thing that if you could pull it off, then you would let go of all your grievances, and therefore you would stop blocking all the blessings that the universe naturally wants to give to you because of just who you are. See, you have to get to a level of consciousness that you go beyond a lower level of consciousness. A lower level of consciousness is the level of consciousness of paying and earning. What? A lower level of consciousness is paying, thinking you got to pay for happiness and you got to earn everything before you can be happy or joyful. A spiritual level of consciousness would be what level of consciousness? It would be the level of consciousness of gifting.
Yay.
It would be the level of consciousness of you receiving gifts. Like I received some beautiful gifts for my continuation day, right? I didn't earn that. I didn't pay for it. It was given. So you have to understand that that which loves you and that which creates you wants to give you and has already given you everything that would make for your happiness. Why don't I know that? Because I'm not asking.
Yeah.
How don't I know that? Because I'm still trying to manipulate everything and everybody around me to give me happiness the way I've decided it should come. And how I know it's not in divine order, the plan that I'm using. I'm not happy. I don't feel fulfilled. I don't feel joyful. I'm worried. I'm still saying I haven't had a relationship that I have any kind of peace in for years. Well, that's because you're still in charge of the process. And I bet you anything, and I bet you $1 million, your process is focusing your attention more on who's going to please you some kind of way and be the way you want them to be in order for you to be happy. Yep. If you be honest. And so the Course says that's an attack on God's plan. God's plan is not for your happiness to be dependent on anything outside of you, because that would be the guarantee that you wouldn't receive it necessarily. Yeah. So I'm not gonna support the plan that won't bring you into happiness. Whoa. Yeah. Listen, watch this more than one time. You need to watch it more than one time. Okay? Then the Course in Miracles says, guess what? First you're gonna wait for the answer. Realize that you've been attacking the truth without waiting to hear it for what it is. Recognizing you've been shouting your grievances so loudly that you haven't even heard God's voice. And not only have you been shouting your grievances, well, do you know that you have used your grievances to close your eyes and stop your ears? So when I'm thinking all of you all need to be different in order for me to be happy, that's the same thing as me doing this, and you've seen kids do it. Watch. You need to be different. Y'all need to be different for me to be happy. You need to be different for me to be happy. You need to be different for me to be happy. You need to be different for me to be happy. It's you the problem. You need to be different for me to be happy. See, I'm not listening to the truth. I'm listening to my grievance. The Course in Miracles is not abstract. It's very practical. It's very obvious. What's the challenge with it? It puts too much responsibility for a person's happiness on that person. That's why people don't like it. I can't blame my unhappiness on my father. My father been passed 50 years ago. Yeah. And I'm still walking around saying, if my daddy had been different, if they hadn't dropped me on my head when I was in the crib, then I could have relationships that work by now. You say, you got to stop blaming your past for what you're doing right now, because what you're doing right now is using your present to interpret your past. You're using your present moment to think about what happened in the past. He says, and that just projects it into the future, and then you meet it again. That's all that happens. I didn't have good relationships in the past. I'm using this moment to remember relationships don't go right for me. That's projecting it in the future, and then I'm amazed that I still have relationships that don't go right, because the person who would have been sent to me that would have been a good match for me, if I don't love me and I'm looking for everybody else to change, then that person could be right in front of my face and I'd never notice it. And that's what happened with many people. That what they're asking for is already there, but they can't see it because they're still using the grievance plan, which is trying to figure out everybody else and how they need to be different in order for them to be happy. Because no conscious being wants to be with you if you like that. Yeah. And aware, that's why they're called aware. And they're probably not going to attack you, not going to judge you, not going to criticize you, not going to condemn you. They're just not going to give you their number. Why? Because they know that you would be drama. They know that there wouldn't be nothing comfortable about being with somebody that's always blaming them for what that person is going through, or seeing that other person as responsible. If you were different, I'd be happy. Person. Because the part of you that doesn't love yourself would never be attracted to somebody you could have anyway. Right. I said it again, the part of you that feels like you don't deserve to be happy would never attract you to a person that would be a smooth, easy relationship. Actually, the person who would probably be a real, harmonious, peaceful relationship probably is going to be put in the friend zone.
Yeah.
They won't be the one you'll want to be intimately involved with. They'll be the cool person that you know off to the side you feel no passion, desire, or connection with. Because the part of you that thinks that you don't deserve to be happy is going to want you to be with somebody who is not available, who doesn't give you the joy and doesn't give you the peace. So you can keep on using the attack on God's plan, which is, you need to be different, then I'll be happy. Phew. Have a nice day.
Yeah.
Have a nice day, right? Have a nice day. So are you closing your eyes? Are you stopping your ears? It's what the Course in Miracles is saying to us. So what do you do? What do you do? He says, whenever you feel your confidence, the answer is going to be true because you're asking the answer of spirit. So then people go, well, what is spirit's answer? That's all I've been reading to you and working with you since you sat down. I've been giving you the answer that comes from spirit. That's why you want a spiritual path. You want a spiritual path because temporarily that's you surrendering to a higher level of consciousness that you want to use as a guide. It may not be the Course in Miracles. It might be something else. But stop teaching yourself. Give yourself the benefit of some type of a spiritual path that you're trusting in greater than your own ego, greater than you just trying to figure it all out on your own. I'm telling you, that's the slow path. You know, and so the Course in Miracles is saying, well, what do you do whenever your confidence wanes? What do you do whenever your hope of success flickers and goes out? He says, well, what you do is what? You repeat the question. Very specific. I'm losing my confidence. Repeat the question. What is happiness? I don't know. Tell me. I don't understand. What is peace for me in this situation? What's the solution in this situation? What's the other way to look at this situation? What is salvation? I don't know. Tell me that I may understand. He says, you repeat your question. You repeat your request, remembering you're asking of the infinite creator of infinity. That's a fancy name for God, isn't it? Yeah. The infinite creator of infinity who did what? Created you like itself. Wait a minute. What? You are just like God. You are just like love.
Yeah.
You are just like spirit. You are free. You are a creator. You are innocent. You are sinless. You are guiltless. You are unlimited. You are beautiful. You are eternal. Yay. Can you make mistakes? Yeah, obviously. Right? But you cannot sin. You cannot do anything that's so bad that you could never be corrected lovingly by a divine, infinite creator. You can't be so special that you can come up with something that even the creator of the whole universe couldn't help. That's too special. Yeah. You know, could you picture a higher power going, Earl, I don't know, man. Your situation, I don't think I can really help you out. That is too freaking special. But you see people do it all the time. Oh, my issue, my problem, it's just too much. The creator, love, the infinite could not solve the situation that I'm going through right now. You know, that's too special. But did you ask? And do you have a path? Do you have something that you're trying to follow right now to give you guidance, to get past the block that you have right now? It doesn't have to be a Course in Miracles if the Course in Miracles doesn't resonate to you. But there's something out there that could be a great link between you and an intelligence greater than you could ever imagine. And it's available. So the Course says, God will answer. So what's the problem? Be determined to hear. What? Yeah, the problem is you're not determined to hear. You're not determined to stick to the answer until you change your mind. Are you willing to remember just what you heard today? Are you willing the rest of the day to go, okay, I'm upset again about something that's me telling myself, if this were different, I'd be saved. If this were different, I'd be happy. What should I do? Ask for what is my peace in this situation? I don't know. Tell me that I might understand. What would be the advantage of doing that? That little pause of 60 seconds to answer that question could be enough for you to get another way to look at it or to handle it. Think about how many things in your life you wish that you got upset about it, that you wish you had just shut your mouth. Just so many times you wish, I hope I just had just been able to zip it for 30 seconds. It would have made all the difference in my relationship with that person. So just stopping to say, my Creator, what is salvation? What is peace? What is happiness in this situation? I don't know. Tell me, what's love? I don't understand. And then go, okay, I need to be determined to hear. Then he goes, well, 1 or perhaps 2 shorter practice periods an hour would be enough for today, and they will be somewhat longer than usual. See, very specific instructions. That's why I always suggest to people the Course in Miracles workbook. Do the workbook, do the workbook, do the workbook, do the workbook. The workbook's exercises are what make the promise of your miracles and happiness happen in the Course in Miracles. Comes from doing the workbook exercises. So if you're a Course in Miracles student and you say you're interested in the Course in Miracles, then you should be doing the workbook. That doesn't mean reading the workbook lesson. Reading the workbook lesson and doing what the workbook says. Because many people say, well, I've done the workbook. No, you read the lessons in most cases. If you be honest, what you did was you might have read the lesson in that morning. But if you be honest, you know you didn't do what was requested. How do you know? Because you have the result. Okay, because when you use it, it works, right? So here's the last exercise. When you feel like, what he says, when you feel like you're wondering where your success is going to come from, you go, holding grievances is an attack on God's plan. So you go, holding grievances is an attack on love's plan. Love's plan for what? My salvation. What does the Course in Miracles say salvation means? He said one of the definitions of salvation is right-mindedness, forgiveness. So the Course says, okay, I need to remind myself, I'm getting ready to get upset about what's going on my job right now. I remember I was in class yesterday. Earl says what I'm telling myself is my boss needs to be different in order for me to be happy. Well, that's crazy because I can't change my boss. So if I make my boss having to be different necessary for me to feel okay, then I'm attacking God's plan. Now, what is God's plan? Well, God's plan, first of all, is for me to ask God, for me to ask a higher power. So I'd say, well, what is the problem? What is the answer? I don't know. I don't understand. So he says, say, holding grievances is an attack on God's plan for salvation. Instead, let me accept God's plan for salvation. Let me accept it, my Creator, what is salvation. So don't forget, salvation means right-mindedness. It means peace. It means forgiveness. Notice it's all about asking questions. Have y'all noticed that it's all about asking questions? Everything about this exercise has been about, would you stop long enough to ask the question rather than you making up your mind the way you think it needs to go and then asking for God's help. After you come up with your plan, then you ask for Spirit's guidance. After you've decided who's going to be your perfect partner, then you ask for help in making that person be the perfect partner. I'm telling you. Do you want love or do you want that person? I say it again. Do you want love or do you want that person? If I want love, Spirit might know the perfect person to send into my life right now. Right? But if I say it's got to be Cheryl, then I might have thrown a big kink in the whole thing if she doesn't feel mutually the same way.
That's true.
So you have to realize, as for the content, the form will take care of itself. Yeah. Ask for somebody that loves you and is waking up and that wants peace and wants to, you know what I'm saying? Ask for the content of people rather than it just being about their physical attributes. Mm-hmm. Because you can have the prettiest face in the world and be a psycho. You know what I'm saying? It's not the physical ultimately that's going to give you the peace. It's going to be the level of consciousness and awareness of the person that you're connecting up with. And what I've found is that usually if you connect with a person at a level of love and heart and connection, they're going to be beautiful to you no matter what their body looks like. That's the weird part about it, is when you're looking at somebody with love, they look good. You know I'm telling the truth. You've had people in your life, I bet you anything, that you've been in a relationship with, and when you no longer love them, they didn't even look good to you anymore the way that they did at first. Everything about them changed. Why? Because the way you felt about them changed. Phew. Why am I saying this? Because I need to learn everything I'm teaching. Everything I'm teaching is what I'm learning. So he says, after you say, holding grievances is an attack on God's plan for salvation, instead, let me accept God's plan for salvation, which is peace. My Creator, what is peace? What is salvation? Then do what? Wait a minute. A whole minute? A whole minute? Wait a minute. And wait a minute, how? In silence? This book requires too much. 1 minute in silence, just asking what the peace would be for you with your eyes closed and listen for the answer. And then people go, well, how do I know? What is the answer? Well, you could cheat. And cheat would be simply going back over the lesson that you just got through doing, because that is the answer. I just gave you the door that would open up the answer. You received it today. I gave it to you today. The course gave you the answer to getting rid of any blocks to receiving the plan of abundance and joy in life. You heard it. I gave it to you from the course today. But what's the challenge? The course says, well, you didn't think of it. Do you know that one of the things that's most difficult for adults to do is to accept an answer that they didn't think of? Because we've been programmed to believe that part of being an adult is how self-sufficient and how autonomous you can come up with everything on your own and do everything on your own. So even though we could receive answers and support that would make our lives better, the truth is saying to us, your need to be in charge keeps you from receiving the very help that you're asking for. So the course teaches that its job is to teach you how to let yourself be helped. Wow. That's what the Course in Miracles is about. It says to teach you, in chapter 30, it says, I'm trying to teach you how to let me help you. That's the whole process. All the happiness you want, all the joy you want is available to you. You don't know how to give it to you. You're following a plan you've made up that does not work, and you ought to know that by now, because you're not getting what you want. So therefore, you should be willing to say, I'm willing to look at this another way. I want another way to look at this. I'm determined to see. I'm determined to see this differently. All those workbook lessons, there's a reason for that. I'm never upset for the reason I think. You're never upset for it, and you are totally entitled to miracles. Every single one of you are entitled to miracles. Yeah. You are entitled to states of love, states of abundance, states of happiness, and safety. And don't believe that crap anybody taught you at any level about you being inherently guilty, bad, sinful, separate from your source, because you're not. The only thing that's separating you from your happiness is your beliefs. And they can be changed. All right? Okay, so in just a minute, I'm going to do about a 1 minute recap, and then you can dash out as fast as you possibly can, or, you can stick around for 10 minutes or so. Let me do the thank you. I'm a full-time teacher of the Course in Miracles, do it on a donation basis. Those who feel like they want to share with me, I truly appreciate it. If you're online and you want to make a financial expression of appreciation, just go to, you can use Zelle, Venmo, Cash App, PayPal, Zelle. All you need is my email address. And that's Earl Purdy at earlpurdy.com. Earl Purdy at earlpurdy.com. I'm available for one-on-one sessions called Clarity Sessions. Just go to my website, earlpurdy.com, and you can find out more details, and you can set up an appointment with me right from my website, so that we can work together on a one-on-one. I especially love to work as a coach and a mentor when it comes to the Course in Miracles. In 2024, let me tell you, it's going to be showtime.
Yeah.
It's going to be showtime.
Showtime.
Yeah, you know, those of you who are light workers and you know who you are, you were born to come into this planet and bring light and truth into this world. That's why you're here. That's why you're here. And that also includes your having your needs met at a physical level and having love at a physical level. So it's not about sacrifice. But I don't believe people are drawn to something like this unless they're very old, molded souls who've been around a whole lot of time, long time, and they know they're here to be the light. I'm tired of waiting for other people to be more loving and to be more kind. I have decided that I will be. I'm not going to wait for anybody else any longer. I'm going to be what I want to have. I'm going to be what I want to have. And then I'm blessed to have so many mighty companions who support me in that, many of them in this room right now. And I want to thank all of you for the incredible comments and support and birthday wishes that I got. It blows my mind. And then I got a message from, I was saying from YouTube that really thrilled me to find out that I had gotten to 1.5 million views of my videos. And so thank you, God. Thank you, God. Thank you, love. So nothing thrills you more than to get a comment from someone who tells you something that came through you made a difference in their life, or to tell you that they were on the verge of suicide and they happened to come across your video and what they saw was what they needed to hear, and then it changed their mind. You know, it humbles you on the inside. It makes you feel like you are really serving your purpose for being on the planet. So that's why I want to keep emphasizing those of you who want support in the course. I'm here for you. Thursday night, 7 p.m. Mountain Time on the Earl Purdy page on Facebook. I do a live Facebook, and then on Sundays at 1 p.m. Mountain Time, I do a live Facebook Live. And also you can come and attend in person at 1555 Race Street in Denver, Colorado. 1555 Race, 80206. I want to thank all of you for showing up. I'm quite shocked at how many people showed up today. Yeah. So, you know, let's see this place filled up with mighty companions who want to grow together, who want to remember together. And because the world needs love right now. We're the channels for it to come on this planet and in this planet. And the cool part about it is that raises your vibration. And when your vibration is raised, that's the most protected place you can be, is in that vibration of love. And so all my classes are also uploaded to YouTube, and they're also on Facebook. And so we need to have some fun and some joy and some happiness, and I'm moved. So here are the guidelines for the course. This is what we're going to end on. Take a breath. I need not what? The idea. You ready? I need not believe the idea. Say what? I need not believe the idea. Say what? I need not believe the ideas. Got your guidelines? I need not accept the ideas. I need not accept the ideas. I need not accept the ideas. Guess what? And none of this will matter. None of this will matter. Say what? None of this will matter, no. Because the use will give it meaning. Say you show me that the ideas are true. What's going to show us? Look, using the ideas. Say what? Using the ideas will show us that the ideas are true. Let's acknowledge ourselves for hearing this moment. Come on. For us. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. Mighty companions online, love you so. Hey, put your clothes on. Mighty companions online, absolutely. Thank you so very much. Hugs are available in 2 minutes. We're going to start with the questions. I'm going to get back who needs to leave. It's going to be only about 10, 15 minutes. It's not very long. And because I would love to get feedback, and I'd love to get a chance to clarify anything that I said.
We are
Love you.
Earl's birthday today.
Love you.